Welcome, friends. James Corbett here, CorbettReport.com, coming to you on the 3rd of November, 2016. Our friend James Evan Pilato of MediaMonarchy.com is taking a week off to work on some things behind the scenes, so there will be no New World Next Week today. But I did want to put together this little video to share some thoughts on something that I've certainly noticed over the past several years, but certainly coming to a head as we approach November 8th, the selection day of America's next top president. And I don't think it takes a lot of digging or a lot of deep contemplation to figure out what the themes and memes of this presidential puppet selection cycle are. And it obviously revolves around the fact that we literally, documentably have the two least popular presidential candidates of all time running against each other right now. So clearly, one of the key points of this selection cycle is not what do you see as the vision of a happier, brighter tomorrow, so much as it is who do you hate more and what do you hate about them and how much hatred can you stir up. So this is reflected everywhere online by a public that sees this hate rising and, well, you have to choose a side, but sometimes it's hard to choose a side in the hatred. I hate both Trump and Clinton. What should I do? Well, it's almost as if people are being directed into this spiral of hatred, which manifests, of course, as outrage and then violence. And, well, I think you wouldn't be far off the mark if that's the conclusion you came to. We're told that Trump tells us that Clinton has tremendous hate in her heart, and we're told that Trump will make America hate again. We're told that hating Trump isn't enough. So, of course, ugly, bloody scenes take place as protesters attack Trump supporters. We're told that a violent response to Trump is as logical as any. Sorry, liberals. We're told to be outraged over Trump's threats to punish Hillary Clinton, and we're told to be outraged over the suggestion that the election might be stolen. We're told to be outraged over Hillary Clinton's comments about the basket of deplorables. We're told even to be outraged about statues. And unfortunately, the outrage does not stop at the borders of the United States. This is increasingly a worldwide phenomenon. We're told, for example, to be outraged about Brexit, and we're told that Europe's Muslims hate the West, and we're told that the world hates Russia, and Russia hates it back. Once again, we certainly see an increase in hatred and outrage, which, of course, will ultimately manifest in violence. We see, for example, the violent escalation at the Dakota Access Pipeline as protests become even more serious there, and on and on. And we see more outrageous stories getting traction, even in the mainstream, or what passes for mainstream these days, as we see stories that usually wouldn't really even be reported on at all suddenly starting to have significance. We see a lot of stories coming around, for example, about election theft and how it functions and the fact that it is functioning. Of course, this story has been around for at least a decade and a half, and there's been a lot of documentable and verifiable information that I've talked about here on the Corbett Report before about how electronic voting, for example, can be easily rigged and votes stolen. And we've talked about it in previous elections or referenda, for example, in the Lisbon Treaty referendum in Ireland and places like that. But for some reason, it's gaining traction this time. It is almost like there is a concerted, coordinated hate machine that is just out there to get people at each other's throats. And lo and behold, there is. I mean, even the New York Times is reporting on Hillary Clinton's outrage machine, which uses allies to push the buttons of various media organizations and others into making non-stories into stories by basically getting people to hate again. And I think we would be naive at best to believe that this hatred and outrage machine starts and ends with the Hillary Clinton campaign. It is a much more widespread phenomenon than that. It is a coordinated agenda to get people to hate each other, hate their neighbor, be at each other's throats, divide friends from friends and family from family, divide us in every way possible to atomize us, smash us down, get us to stop thinking about any type of cooperation or any type of trust or any way that we can possibly relate to each other outside of the political arena. That is the only arena that we're supposedly allowed to engage with each other in, and only then by hating everyone else and making it about our team versus that team. Now, this is a big problem, and it is, as I say, not limited to this election. It is not limited to the United States. It's much more widespread. So I am going to be talking about this and addressing it in various ways in my future work. But for the moment, I'll just leave you with a couple of podcast episodes that you might want to re-explore, because I think this hatred and outrage and violence is part of a pre-revolutionary era that I think we are quite palpably living through right now. And although some people might think that they want revolution, I think the question is, what revolution? Because revolution does not always, I would almost say never, lead to the place that the revolutionaries want it to go. It has a tendency to get out of people's grasp. So in order to start thinking about these issues, I would suggest you refresh yourself with a pair of podcast episodes from the Corbett Report archives, Revolution Impossible and The Revolution of the Mind. I think these are important concepts to be grappling with at this moment in time. But let me just leave you with this thought. If we are being taught to hate and be outraged and be violent and be at each other's throats by the mainstream media and all of the apparatus and organizations and institutions of the establishment and the deep state, then what is the answer to that? How do we fight back against that hatred? I'll leave you to ponder that, but as I say, I'll be talking about this more in the very near future. That's it for today. James Corbett, CorbettReport.com.